towards the start of Meetings of Anna, she finds this guy's necktie in her hotel room closet.
Okay.
And it's this classic 70s necktie, like super wide gray. And I was like, that's a great tie. I want that tie.
It's not the first time that you've wanted someone's tie on this podcast.
Is that right?
I think you've definitely spoken about wanting a piece of someone else's wardrobe. And I'm pretty sure it was a tie, but I can't remember what movie it was.
It might have been Taipei Story because everyone has drip in Edward Yang movies.
Yeah, it's the Eli guy.
Yeah.
Oh, it is the Eli guy.
Eli has a tie fetish confirmed.
I thirst for ties. I'm like one of the only people at my work that wears a tie.
He likes them wide and retro.
Send me your 70s ties.
Tarantino has toes. Eli Sands has ties.
Nice.
Just switch a letter.
I'm Wilson Lai.
I'm Benjamin Yap.
I'm Eli Sands.
You're listening to Deep Cut.
On Deep Cut, we compare a director's most popular film with a personal favorite chosen by one of us.
We also discuss that director's life and career to bring in context that helps us view their movies as they may want us to.
If you're enjoying the show, please rate and subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts to help others discover the show. Better still, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts or comment on episodes directly on Spotify. You can also find us at deepcutpod.com to find links to our socials, Discord, and Patreon. Welcome back to our Chantal Akerman series. We're doing, what is this now? Our fourth episode on Akerman with The Meanings of Anna. So if you've been following us, welcome back. We felt like we needed to do one more for some reason, and I guess I've picked The Meanings of Anna, which is essentially us doing the first few films that Akerman makes in her career. To kind of put it into context, Meanings of Anna comes after News from Home. Let me double check that one more time.
No, I think it comes directly after Jeanne Dielman.
No, after News from Home. Because News from Home comes after Jeanne Dielman. So we're basically doing her first 4-film run. J2EL, Jeanne Dielman, News from Home, and Meanings of Anna. And this happens between 1974 to 1978. Really good work rate for Akerman.
Yeah.
Which really does slow down in the later part of her career. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about The Meanings of Anna, on French, Les Rendezvous d'Anna.
Once again, the French listenership.
I'm sorry.
Coming after our pronunciation.
Désolé.
Ne pas de quoi.
Anyway, before we begin our discussion on Meanings of Anna, we're going to spoil the film, this slow cinema thing. I don't know if you care. I feel like some people are just like not watching Akerman and they just want to hear about it. So this is us talking about it. So if you don't mind the spoilers, you can continue listening to us talk about The Meanings of Anna. I'm going to do a very quick summary of the film and then we'll just do quick reactions and then we go deep into our discussion on the film. So The Meanings of Anna follows a film director named Anna who has just released a film we never see and never really hear anything much about. And she's touring her film in Europe through West Germany, which is important at the time in the 70s, Belgium, and France. And as she is touring Europe for this film, she encounters strangers, old lovers, old flames, family, other Polish refugees. Character herself is also Polish. Akerman's self-insert into her film. Film director, Polish, speaks French, has films, has making films. And as she meets all these people, she listens to their stories and we learn about, mostly about the people she meets, but also a little bit about Anna herself as she has these meetings. So that's kind of the film. I don't know, when you guys watched this recently?
Yeah, just last night.
Okay, maybe you can begin, Eli, with like a general reaction then.
Yeah, I'll be honest and say that Akerman is a director who I've really struggled with, perhaps more so than other directors we've covered. And I'm very glad that you suggested we do one more round with her, Ben, and especially that you chose Meetings of Anna, because it does kind of help click some things for me. about her body of work in general. And also, I'm definitely feeling like I got more of what Meetings of Anna is doing than I would have gotten had I not watched those other pictures first. So I really did like this one a lot more. Still, I'll admit a struggle to get through in terms of like maintaining attention.
Right. It's still slow cinema.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit radic on myself to say that, but I did enjoy this one. And I think there's a lot there that I'm excited to discuss, especially looking at how its themes and focuses intersect with her other pictures that we've talked about.
Wilson?
I really loved the Meetings of Anna. I think that this is like sort of maybe the best kind of ending that we can give to an Akerman series, because I feel like the Meetings of Anna, obviously because it's the last one made out of the ones that we were talking about, but I feel like she really brings together a lot of different elements from the other films into this one. I saw so much of Je tu il elle, especially the second and the third sections, in many of the sections of Meetings of Anna. And I think this feeling of isolation as well, it runs so deep through this film and Je tu il elle. And I think those two are sort of like sister films in a sense. But I also think that Akerman herself is drawing from Jeanne Dielman and the really extended, slow-moving takes between two characters in a space. And also, yeah, News from Home, even with that ending with the voicemails. I think there's just so much to pick up on there. But I think that's also why I come out of the Meetings of Anna really enjoying it, but also really, I guess, a little more confused as to what Akerman's trying to say here, whether it's still quite autobiographical, even though the main character is not played by her. She is still a filmmaker that is debuting one of her first or early features. And once again, like I'm still like very attuned to the slow cinema aspect of this film as well, and just really enjoying the slow pace of it and like being really sucked into these interactions. Like I think that sequence where her and the other man on the train just watch as you sort of go from train station to train station is one of the most beautiful things that I've seen recently on film, and like will always remember that scene, as well as a few others in this film. I'm happy to get into the different interactions Anna has with these different people she comes across in this trip.
Yeah. I feel similarly with Eli. Like, even though I'm the one kind of like bringing us into Akerman, like, we can tell that Wilson is more taken because of his more familiarity with slow cinema that maybe Eli and I have less of. And I also struggle with Akerman as well, thinking about how to engage with the way that she makes films in a way that is not really meant to entertain, as we've already kind of said many, many times on the podcast.
Right.
And I write about this on my Substack because for some reason, watching Meanings of Anna really made me think a lot about what Akerman is doing and trying to achieve. And I think you were asking Wilson, like, what is she trying to achieve here, like, compared to the others? And I think it is very obviously an autobiographical film, or at least trying to express something that she has experienced maybe on the road, with her fleeting relationships, with her queerness, with her relationship with her mother. All these things come to fore in the film. Despite the fact that I wouldn't say that the film completely engages me throughout the runtime, I do think it is effective in doing the thing that Akerman says that she wants to do, which is to leave you with a feeling, because there's a very strong sense of alienation and depression in the film.
Oh, yeah.
That is very palpable. And I don't really, it's something that's hard to pin down because she's not doing it in a very obvious way. She's doing it with the tools of slow cinema to get you to feel a certain way, to feel the isolation, the alienation, the loneliness that maybe she feels. It isn't really a message film. It's a film about a feeling, which she wants you to feel. It's not really a great feeling, really. Despite the fact that Anna meets all these people, has so many connections, and yet she feels so lonely is something very palpable. The way that she is kind of a bystander in a lot of interactions. And for many of them, she is not speaking. She's very much listening, which reminds me of, say, Je tu il elle, where she spends a lot of time listening to other people talk. So I come away from it thinking, for some reason, that Meanings of Anna is kind of connected to a lot of them. more so than even, say, John Dielman for some reason, because it includes a lot of the themes and the images that she uses even in her documentary work, in her more experimental cinema, even more experimental, the ones that we've been talking about. And somehow this narrative, which is supposedly less experimental or having a narrative, is connected to so many of her films stylistically and in terms of themes and in terms of images that, I don't know, it has a kind of a special place for some reason in her filmography. Like, I mean, it's the only one about a filmmaker. So I guess it's maybe the one that's the most from her perspective. As far as I know, it's the only one.
I feel the same, Ben.
And I feel like when we talk about like intro films to filmmakers, like I feel like you would always go to the popular pick because like, oh, that's what made them famous. And with Akerman's case, it's obviously Jeanne Dielman, but I would make a case for the meetings of Anna being a much more maybe palatable or like more enjoyable universally first Akerman to sort of dip your toe in. So if you've come to this point in the episode and you're like, oh, should I watch this first or should I watch Jeanne Dielman first? I would say that you should go watch this first. It's also a palatable 2 hours versus... Yeah.
I mean, it's slow, but it's not long.
I actually disagree.
Oh, interesting.
For reasons that we'll get into as we compare different films in her filmography to this one, especially Jeanne Dielman. I think this is a response to Jeanne Dielman in a way that I think it's necessary to watch Jeanne Dielman first.
Wait, I want to hear this now. Tell me now. Oh, I'm going to forget.
Just go for it.
I was trying to be coy and like, stay tuned. Don't touch that dial. To me, part of what makes the depression and alienation so palpable, which I think is perfectly said, Ben, is that this feels like Akerman's response to the success and the career choice of Jeanne Dielman. So if Jeanne Dielman is Akerman decrying the constriction of being a housewife, of going down the socially standard road for middle-class women, being a housewife, being a mother, taking on the work of the home, and devoting your life to that. If that's Jeanne Dielman, Akerman has chosen something else and chosen to go be an artist who is not constricted to a single space, who is meeting all these different people, who has an ostensibly fuller life. I think that Meetings of Anna is Akerman contending with the fact that she's sort of placed herself in another trap all of a sudden. In the way that the home and domesticity is a trap for Jeanne Dielman, being an artist and being on the road and having these fleeting relationships and being detached from a home life is a kind of trap for Anna. And it sort of spells her doom.
Maybe I don't like the use of the word trap. I feel like the better word for me is cost.
Yeah.
Like the cost of the kind of life. Because we talk about how in Jeanne Dielman, the popular reading of Jeanne Dielman is that, oh, the home life is a prison. But then we also think about the fact that, oh, the home life is also a crutch. And the home life is also a routine that you can fall back on. The home life is actually safe. Ritual is safe. Ritual gives you maybe not necessarily meaning, but structure. And maybe structure is meaning. So the life that Anna leads has no structure the way that Jeanne Dielman's life has structure, right?
Right.
And so, interestingly, we talk about like structural films. Like Anna, this is like a road movie, and road movies have freewheeling structures, and it's harder to tell what the next scene is going to be or where the next place we're going to go is going to go. And so, in that way, it's actually one of the less predictable Akerman films in a sense. I guess you could say J2EL is sort of a road movie. I don't know if it makes sense, but kind of. But like a very simple one that's just 3 acts, right? Like 3 encounters. Herself, a man, a woman. So Meetings of Anna has the feeling of an art house movie I might see today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. The smooth camera movement.
It's very like Francis Ha.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, these are the interactions that I like this woman has in like a year-long period of her life, and this is how she grows, or this is how she's feeling. I really see that. And also, like Eli was saying, like the visual beauty of it. I think the lateral camera movements really are Wes Anderson coded here. Yeah, just got me thinking a lot about Grand Budapest Hotel. Maybe the location as well.
Yeah, those camera movements feel like a grammatical parallel to the lockdown static shots of Jeanne Dielman. Even if there is more movement in the life of Anna than the life of Jeanne Dielman, there's still something languid about that movement in the way that the lockdown shots in Jeanne Dielman have their own kind of constricting, confining nature.
If I want to put my brain into Akerman's, kind of mind melt with the way that she thinks. Because when we think about those planner shots that she does in the houses that she films, whether in John Dielman or any other film that she like shows a house, it's kind of like that angular, and she likes to show you the boxes in a room or in a house, sorry. And then here we do have these tracking shots, but the tracking shot is equally locked to tracks like a train. It's moving, but it's moving the way that the room is moving, not the camera is moving.
The one exception to this, when the track is not planimetric, it is when she sees her mom in the train station.
Oh.
So it still stays parallel to the wall in like that planimetric kind of way, but the camera itself is not moving parallel to the wall. It's moving at a kind of 45-degree-ish angle as Anna walks into the train station.
Question, did it take both of you an extended amount of time to realize that this was her mother? Because it took me
a while.
Like, I think until she says mama, I'm like, oh, you're like, I was like, maybe is this like her father's caretaker? I feel like, and it's also how the relationship was conveyed to me, like their physical distance to each other in the shot and the very formal nature of their conversation. It's just interesting, and it also reflects a lot upon how Akerman saw her interactions with her own mother as well, which opens up a whole chapter to this saga of Akerman and her working through feelings about her mom through her films.
This passage with the mom really did kind of unlock a lot regarding watching Akerman films for me. Well, first I thought, okay, this is her mom from how they interact in that extreme wide in the train station. And then when they're at dinner, I was like, wait, am I wrong? Is this... Because one, the mom looks really young as well.
She does.
And also, yeah, Wilson, the way they interact, especially in the bedroom, is like, oh. We've been talking about how Akerman's movies do return to the topic of her mother a lot. But this one, I think, made me think about how her movies are not about her mother or her relationship to her mother. They're about herself, and her mother is one of the mirrors that she can hold up to see herself. I think they are more self-focused than I had realized before. They're not so like indebted or devoted to her mom specifically, I believe. It's like looking at the mom as a way of interrogating herself and seeing herself. Do I want to be this? Do I want to be that?
I guess the question I have for y'all is that even though, yes, we have a very strong feeling of the emotional state that Anna is in, that despite all the people that she meets, the lovers that she meets, the intimacy, whether emotional or physical, that we seem to see, that she doesn't really talk a lot about herself or how she feels about things, except for this scene with her mother where she talks about meeting a woman and kissing a woman and like how it felt really easy. This is like the only time she tells a story about herself, but otherwise she's mostly a listener to other people, whether like a random person or a lover telling her about themselves. Do you think that gives us enough idea of the kind of person that she is or not? Because until that scene with the mother, I was like, we're getting nothing about her. Like she's just like kind of a ghost moving from scene to scene.
I think that, well, I mean, you know, enough is a hazy target anyway, but like I do think that Aurore Clement
Don't try.
Keep this in.
Aurore Clement.
Aurore Clement brings a lot to it. And I think the scripting is really smart because it boils her character down to this flat, apathetic we that she says to most conversations. keep my voice cracked in there. I think that the movie certainly delays a kind of opening up and withholds even a smile for a super long time. But by the time that interaction with Danielle rolls around, where she is asked to take up space by singing, I do feel like I have a fuller idea of this character than I get of, say, Jeanne Dielman. Because one, there's a touch more dialogue. Two, there's a lot more close framing to Anna's face throughout the movie. And also, I feel like J2L kind of trained me to watch body movement in the space. Like, I definitely was thinking about that character in J2L stuck in the room and moving about the room and doing these purposeful movements like a body artist when Anna at the start of the movie was in her hotel room fully clothed and just moving the slightest bit in the room. There are these tells that Akerman has to characterize Anna that she has used in her other movies.
But maybe because we watched Jeanne Dielman first, we were not picking up on that as much as now. Then, like, I feel like if I were to watch Jeanne Dielman now, I feel like her movements would be one of the key things that I'm really like trying to read through the lines to understand the character more.
Well, I think we were tracking that in Jeanne Dielman too. It's just that Jeanne Dielman is never at ease and she's always rigid in her movement and always on. So there's not really a relaxed moment until maybe the last shot. And even then, that's extremely debatable. So Anna here definitely is letting down her guard in some passages.
With us as the audience, I guess.
Yes. Like when she's crying in the cab, when she's in the alone in rooms, sometimes I feel like we get more access to her relaxed state. Or unguarded, rather.
I kind of want to just like lay out the sequence of the film for some reason. I don't know if it's going to be helpful, but it's kind of like the plot of the film of where they're going to go, where she goes, right? She begins by coming to Germany. She gets into the hotel. Then her first and quite a long interaction was with Heinrich, I guess German man.
Is he the journalist or the owner of the Roxy?
Yeah, because she meets with two people, right? And Henrik is definitely one of those two people that she continues hanging out with after her professional meeting with those two.
I'm so confused now.
Because she gets the call and says, the owner of the Roxy and a journalist are in the lobby here to meet you. And Heinrich is one of those men, but we're never told who.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just going off the credits right now. I'm so confused. He is the same man in the night and the day, right? Because I was confused at some point. I was like, this is the same man.
Well, that's a philosophical question right there, baby.
It is. I was like, this guy looks the same blonde dude. Anyway, I did not rewatch the film recently, so I'm like going off like a lot of memory and like skimming the film. Anyway.
Busted.
So we begin in Germany. She meets this guy. Then she hooks up with, I guess it's Heinrich. I'm looking at the IMDb photo. But then she's not feeling it. And then the next day she goes hangs out with him and I guess his mother and child off in the countryside. Heinrich talks about the war a lot. And then after that, she leaves and gets on a train to go to, I believe, Belgium to meet her mother. And she runs into a family friend, Ida, who talks to her and has a son that she wants to marry her to. And then after the encounter, she meets a stranger on the train, a man who is just watching the trains and just starts talking to her. And then they watch the trains together. And then after that, she reaches a destination and meets her mother. And then they go to dinner and they go to bed. And then that's the two interactions she has with her mother. And then she returns to France and meets Danielle, who's like another old flame who is married, I believe. And they have an interaction at night. And after that, she goes home. And she lives in Paris somewhere. Like, it's actually like fewer interactions than I remember when I laid it out. But if you look at it, it's very clear what she's interested in because many of the characters talk about the war and about the aftermath of the war.
And the recession as a result of, Europe's economic state post-war. The guy on the train talks about his ideas of French people. He's a German man who's traveled around and is now going to live in France. And he has this really fanciful idea of France as a country of freedom, and French people live with freedom in their hearts, he says. And maybe I'll be happy here. It's like saying that to Anna, who knows that going from place to place is not fulfilling and not a way to find happiness.
I really like the sequence, like you mentioned as well, Wilson, like when they're watching the trains and just like kind of going through the stations. These are exceedingly beautiful shots of train stations and like just the nighttime and the lights and the activity that's happening within the train stations. I wonder how staged these are, but there's something very almost like street photography about them in like evoking a mood just by an image. And that's something that I really kind of clinged on to when I think about the film, which is that if you take the image out of the film, it really doesn't mean anything. But then within the context of the film, within the conversations that we're hearing, and then watching these images in the interstitial space between meetings and the length of them really gives you a feeling. Just like the image gives you a feeling, the light and the darkness makes you feel this kind of like loneliness just going through the stations. And like, that's not something I can describe to you in a good way of why it gives a feeling. It just does, because that's just what the image does.
Yeah. There's no specific like reasoning as to like how she's doing it, but it's just like, I think your presence in the moment or the memories that it evokes, those images evoke. I found that scene to be really powerful. And also the fact that a lot of it is actually like relayed to us in silence. They're not having conversations through a lot of it. And just having them spending that time together in silence makes it feel so intimate to me. Like the fact that you're able to like share this really extended silent moment with a stranger, I think means that you're willing to open yourself up to awkwardness or just really be okay with spending idle time, or not idle time, but silent time with other people.
The other thing that it does is it aligns your experience as a viewer with that of Anna in a very direct way. You talk about it making us feel loneliness, Ben, and that it causes us to share the intimacy of her experience, Wilson. The other thing it's doing is that it's placing us in her, in some cases, direct optical POV, where we're seeing through her eyes and not being told what to look at as we pass through these train stations, but rather just sort of watching around as she might be doing. And also as she's doing as a filmmaker and as an artist. Especially on the train, there's that beautiful kind of aperture framing with the window on the train where you see the stranger and Anna over the shoulder. And then it goes back into kind of looking more directly out the window in Anna's POV. So there's another bit of subjectivity that we're not nearly afforded in something like Jeanne Dielman, where we are looking as she looks and listening as she listens. We're very much so in her space in terms of the actions that Anna does. We're doing those same actions as viewers here.
Like we are extremely aligned in the sense that, like you said, like we see what she sees and we hear what she hears. And she's in every scene. So we are experiencing what Anna is experiencing. I think in that sense, there's actually a lot of access, even though we don't really hear what she says.
Yeah.
And I think that does make it feel like a very personal film, even more so than maybe any of the films that we've talked about from Akerman on the podcast.
I agree. Even Je tu il, which literally has Akerman herself in it, is not quite as deep, or you're encouraged to look at Akerman rather than look with her in Je tu il. I think you're looking with Anna in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that out of the narratives that we've talked about, I feel like the documentaries still offer like a little bit more of an insight into what she's actually feeling or going through.
Like a reality insight.
Yes.
But in a way, that one's doing something quite oblique in trying to get you to understand it, because the understanding is in the things that she does not say, which is like direct, yes, but requires a lot more inference from your perspective to fill in the blanks, right? But in this one, the experience really is just her watching people and listening to people and looking at people. In that sense, you feel very close to Anna, even though you might not know what she's thinking, but maybe she's thinking what you're thinking. Maybe that's what Akerman's trying to achieve with this film, right? And I think she does achieve it in the sense that we are able to probably feel those emotions that Anna seems to be feeling, which I guess Akerman has been feeling or had been feeling in her life on the road as a filmmaker, I guess. I kind of want to talk about, since we talked about the subway shots, because we haven't talked about some of these other films from her filmography that I've kind of watched. And so I kind of reference this as well in my Substack, which is these two films, Tout ennui means a whole night, and From the East, or it's just like De Est, or something like that. I'm not sure how to pronounce that in French. And that's a documentary, actually. So Tout ennui is an extremely simple film about a single night in Brussels. And it's maybe like 30 to 50 scenes, I'm not very sure, of people at night coming together and meeting people. And these scenes of the trains at night and of Anna kind of walking around at night really remind me of that film, which is like, if you imagine a film having like a climax in which two lovers meet at night, or two lovers part at night, Tout ennui is that times 50, and you don't know what the story is. You just see the climax. It's like 50 climaxes, right? And you're like, what's going on?
Slap that on the DVD cover.
And then sometimes it's like two people just sleeping in bed and like lying around, or two people in a restaurant. So it like kind of plays with different kinds of meanings, which like Meetings of Anna also kind of is just playing with different kinds of meanings. So it's like Tout ennui is like this
MEATINGS.
So it's almost like you can think of like Tout ennui as a crystallized version of Meetings of Anna and then like multiplied 50 times.
Or you can imagine probably Anna walking around Brussels that night and witnessing some of those moments.
Yeah. And I kind of bring it up to kind of show you that this film relates to that in just like another one of these, all of her films are kind of playing with the same stuff. And I think as you watch Akerman's films, you kind of like see where her head is at and what she's obsessed about and what she thinks about. I can imagine her walking around at night, looking at people and just thinking about people, right? That's the kind of feeling that The Whole Night gives me. And then From the East is very much the documentary in which she goes to Eastern Europe and just captures daily life. But a lot of that daily life is people waiting for the bus, waiting for the train, which this one also is. And a lot of tracking shots of just like people waiting. And kind of similar to A Whole Night, but like kind of sad and like bleak, even though you don't know what's going on. It has some interior scenes, but not that many, mostly on the streets, showing just people waiting. And this a very similar feeling in the Meetings of Anna, where there's a lot of waiting. When they're on the train, they're waiting for the train to arrive. Or like when they're in the car, they're waiting to get to the next place. So when they're on the platform, they're waiting for the train to come. So like there's like a lot of this similar vibe that she keeps coming back to in her, I guess you could say, more experimental work later on, that she is trying to figure out for some reason, or like she is trying to express. And you can see that it is just on Akerman's mind. These things that is kind of like all jammed into the Meetings of Anna, they keep kind of showing up in the rest of her work.
Yeah, this movie is a lot like kind of a crossroads of her focuses. You know, Wilson already mentioned that the voicemails and the voiceover of correspondence from Letters from Home is here. I thought of Letters from Home with those out the window tracking shots.
News from Home.
News from Home, yes, as opposed to Letters Home. Thank you.
Which is another film we have not covered.
Right. Because of those intersections and the autobiographical nature, there's one moment in Meetings of Anna that really like made my stomach flip in a bad way. And it's when Anna is talking with Ida, and Ida says, when your parents are dead and you have no kids, what's left? And Anna says, nothing. It's really hard to not map that onto the end of Akerman's life. I found it really upsetting.
It's almost, it comes back to this like, I don't belong anywhere, Akerman, that she talks about a lot. A sort of statelessness in a sense, or a lack of belonging because you have not chosen to commit or to like put down roots anywhere in a very kind of strong way.
Yeah. And no whole movie is like half about her mom going through this, but also it's half about Chantal dealing with her not feeling rooted anywhere. So
Yeah.
this is a theme that sort of extends out towards the end of her career. This sort of, unable to place herself.
Yeah.
But she also looks around at all these people who who Anna crosses paths with in this movie, and they all have roots and none of them are happy. So it's a total lose-lose from how I think Akerman saw the world and how certainly her characters see the world.
We didn't talk about this on the No Home Movie episode, but I'm just thinking about the title now. And I'm like, wait, I didn't think about the title that hard.
Oh my God.
No home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At first, you're thinking, oh, it's just an interesting way of saying like, this isn't a home movie, but it's a movie about having no home.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, you know how people always say like, home is where your people are? And that's kind of like draws from that quote, right? Like, then if your people are dead, then you have no home. Like, I'm not saying like kids are the solution to people having a home.
Right.
Absolutely not. But it does kind of beg the question of like, oh, how do you kind of maintain that home throughout your life? Whether it's your community or whatever. And what if your community dies? Like, even if you have 100 friends, one of you is the last one. Like, that's like
so depressing.
that is so depressing.
Well, fortunately, the three of us are going to die in the exact same moment in the exact same way. So
Please
we don't have to
say
worry about that.
I'm never getting in the car with you, Eli.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. I don't drive.
Exactly. Not with you at the wheel.
By the way, that wasn't a threat. It's just a hope. It's just somehow worse.
Yeah, I mean, despite not really being on the surface of it, it is a very sad movie.
It's very, very sad.
Yeah, like it is in the bones of the movie, but it's like not on the image of the movie, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it's sad because of how it intersects with all those things that Akerman cares about and is, I think it's safe to say, depressed by.
What do you think of the ending? Because I think the ending was when I figured out what the film was about.
Yeah, well, the voicemails that she lays down and listens to in her French apartment are all these other people who wanted to see her and didn't connect with her. So, like, she has these kind of fleeting relationships times 50, to borrow that to ennui phrasing that you used, Ben.
Yeah, and I think it kind of clicked for me in that scene because I was like, oh, when we see her kind of like have these relationships, but then kind of like is checked out sometimes, maybe not with her mother, but like feeling an almost like alienation despite being in a conversation with somebody else in that moment. And then she has this like expressionless reaction to all these voicemails. So it's almost like even with all these future meetings, past meetings, like she just doesn't feel like she's there, right? She doesn't have a response to these things. And it's something like she's like a ghost. I've been saying this, right? But she's kind of like not there. And there is an explanation as to why Anna is this way. She just is this way. And I don't know, it's just sad.
We talked about the cyclical nature of Je tu il elle in the ending. And one of the voicemails she gets at the end here is that she has to go on tour and go to several screenings of her film again. So it's all getting kicked off again. And also that final cut to the credits, it feels like it could have happened at any point in that thread of voicemails. And it feels very sudden and randomly chosen. And it ends on the line of dialogue, maybe next year. And there's a sort of fatigued resignation to that ending note and the suddenness of its clipping off.
I think it's such a telling final sequence. I was also really tuned into her own face and her facial expressions as each voicemail played. It feels like she was getting more and more devastated the more voicemails she was listening to. She was just like looked by the end of it, she would look like she was in physical pain because she was like, these are all these people that maybe like she has to hang out with or she's forced to interact with, even though she is just not feeling connected to any one of these people. And yeah, that's just the burden of living life, baby.
Dang.
Yeah. What else should we talk about? We should talk about all the sex in this. Too.
All the failed sex.
There's actually not that much sex in this. Like, there's a lot of non-starter sex.
That car hand job reminded me of the second story in Je t'aime elle, where he comes and then he talks about his life. And here I don't know what purpose Danielle has in her life, but I feel like every like sexual interaction that she has with men is probably an interaction where she is not feeling fully herself or feeling the way that she describes in words this sexual interaction that she has with a woman to her mother feels more sensual and feels more felt than seeing her give a hand job from the back of the car as like two silhouettes in this car. And I think that's very telling, right? That's very important to sort of place this like story that she tells to her mom versus the other semi-sexual relationships that she has with the various men in this film. And what is more powerful to me is that story that she tells her mom.
Now, I was just thinking about the 2 times that she's in a bed with a man, right? With the German man, and then she like doesn't feel it, and then he leaves. And then it's kind of a sort of becomes somewhat more platonic in that sense when then she goes and meets him the day after. And there's like a discomfort with him, even though he seems pleasant enough for some reason. But like there's just no feeling there. But then with the other one, this guy feels more like, I don't know. I don't have the right word for it, but like there's something about him like he wants to consume her in a way that's different.
Yeah.
Like because I guess he looks much older and I think he has probably this is like his mistress or something. I'm not very sure. And the way that he grabs her butt when they like go into the hotel, like there's something about it that feels very like overtly just like for sex. But then it's like very interesting when it twists when he like starts to feel ill and then like she has to like mother him and like rub his back. And then at one point, like I guess tries to stick a finger up his butt or something, and then he's like not feeling it. I was very confused about that whole sequence, but I was kind of like, oh, it's almost like she doesn't know how to do this role, and like he's like not into it, right? But people want Anna to be something to them, but she is not that thing.
Huh.
Benjamin, is it time to talk about anality?
Oh shit, anality. It's kind of too much to go into right now.
the meetings of anal.
Okay, never mind. No.
Oh. We can, but like it's like hard to like dial it in like I don't know, next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe not. You guys can Google it. You can Google it.
Anality.
Get back
It's
to
some
us.
Oh my
Freudian
God.
shit.
Don't tell our listeners to Google anality.
Just put Freud in it. Freud anality.
Maybe to end on not such a venereal note. That moment when he asks her to sing,
Yeah.
I think is so fascinating and is a little bit of an antidote to the bleakness of the movie because he's asking her to engage in an artistic act, to take up space rather than just listen, to create something, to choose the song, and he lavishes praise on her, which no one else really does. I think that is an interesting counterpoint to the rest of the interactions that she has, including with Danielle.
It's a sudden musical moment, which is very interesting. I've seen her do it in like Le Captif, and it's kind of surprising. And it's a long moment. Like she sings a whole song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is like the brightest that we see on his face.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm skeptical when I see it, man. I'm like, there's a feeling of performance. I mean, she's performing a song, but there's feeling of performance that like kind of feels like it's bearing the feeling that's like not right. It's a very odd and interesting moment in the film that really kind of like sticks out a lot just because of its musicality and like almost optimism, but like not. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's a shadow to its apparent pleasure.
Yeah. Is there other stuff you guys want to talk about in this film? We've kind of like been hazily moving through it because it's quite a difficult film to pin down in terms of how to go about talking about this, like without just kind of like talking about form in a very generic way. Because I think it kind of leads me down this path of, we talk about this sometimes, I think in one of the other episodes, I forgot which one, where Akerman cinema is usually trying to be this pure cinema where like there isn't anything to say about the film, but to experience it yourself. And then like, if you feel the depression that she feels, then the film works and you don't really need to talk about how it works anymore. And I would say that the tools she's using are not complex. It's not a very complex way of getting you there or a complex story structure to get you to feel the way that Anna feels, but it works and you're there. And it's not complex, but maybe it's a unique use of the cinematic toolbox in an Akerman way to make you feel this way in this slow cinema style, in this more structural style, maybe, that it does work to make you feel that way. It's maybe not enjoyable all the time, but like it works.
Yeah. We've talked about this before, but I think that that's part of the virtue of going out on a limb and trying out movies and other art that aren't explicitly designed to give you pleasure or entertainment. That there is real reward in engaging with Akerman's filmography, even though, again, I've really struggled with it.
What my mind's going to right now is like the questions that it opens up that are not about the movie itself.
Yeah.
We've talked about like the cost of being an artist like this. And these are questions that I think about and like, what kind of life do I want to live? Where do I want to put on my roots? And like, where do I want my home to be? Because if you don't, then you might end up on this path that Akerman herself finds herself on. And we know how that ends. And like, we know that that's not great. It kind of opens up these questions of like, oh, how do you want to treat each other? And like, what's the point of having physically intimate relationships if they're not anything more than that?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the way to dissect how the movie works, but it is the things that the movie puts on the table and then it kind of leads to other stuff. And the conversation kind of goes to other things, right? And I think it's because of the open-ended nature of her films that she makes you ask about the film, but not about how the film works. Because a lot of times that we talk about films, we talk about how the film works, right? And here, it's less about how the film works, because we know it works, and it works. But it does open up these questions, which are maybe more interesting to think about and like ask about and to share with each other.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we're getting a chance to really talk about these films. I still land on the other side of the pit or whatever of the enjoyment scale of Akerman's films compared to you guys, and I feel very grateful that I like am able to emotionally like take in these movies and really feel how her characters are feeling and just empathizing with it. And I feel like it's great to watch a master, like a certified master at work. Like, I think it's quite undeniable the skill that she brings to transferring a feeling or an emotion into celluloid and into like our own eyes and brains and just do it so beautifully. But also, I think with Akerman's films, more than a lot of other directors, I feel reflective of my own life and the choices that I've made and where I'm at right now, much more than so many other directors. Maybe I feel like maybe I can't even name directors that like I watch their films and really just have a real good think about what am I doing with my life right now, or like how am I emotionally right now. And I'm just very grateful to just this operation of Deep Cut to be able to let me really invest time into these movies and her filmography reflect on my own life and also talk about these movies with you guys as well. So just very thankful and hope that if you had been listening to the last few episodes, you get something out of watching these movies and listening to us talk about them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seconded. I think one of the defining features of Akerman's character is that they don't talk about those things that they're experiencing. They sort of suffer as a way to prompt us into that reflection. So don't do as they do. And if you're feeling feelings, talk about it with people that you trust.
Or maybe do that and then suffer, and then you can make art as good as Chantal Akerman.
Jesus. Bad advice.
Actually, I want to pick up real quick on what you just said, Eli. And I think it's interesting because so many films are about characters that grow and like develop and stuff. And so many of Akerman's films are about stasis.
Yeah.
And about being stuck. And that's a very difficult kind of film to make because when people write movies or like help you write movies, they tell you there has to be growth, there has to be like development, blah, 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 blah. But these are not films with that. And of course, that makes it maybe harder to follow them or to engage with them. But it doesn't mean that they're invalid in the way that they portray that stasis.
Of course.
Because in a way, she's trying to show you a singular feeling over 2 hours. And that's it.
I maintain that one of the most important books I've ever read is Kazuo Ishiguro's Remains of the Day, because it shows a guy who at the end of his life is so filled with regret about how he lived his life. Movies and books and other pieces of art that depict that regret and despair do prompt you to ask, how do you want to live your life? These characters feel that way so that hopefully you don't have to.
Well, I guess we'll leave that for our listeners to ponder, and I'll close out the episode. How do you want to live your life?
How do you want to live your life?
My life.
Do you think Borat feels that way on the road?
The meetings of Borat.
Wait a minute. These are kind of similar. Thank you for listening to Deep Cut. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts to help others discover the show. A great way to support us is to leave a review for our show or comment on episodes directly on Spotify. You can keep up with us on Instagram, Letterboxd, and X at DeepCutPod or follow our TikTok at DeepCutPod_film. And if you want to chat with us and other fans of Deep Cut, you can come join us on our Discord server and tell us your favorite John Dielman film, or like maybe if you want to tell us to cover some other one. Sorry, not John Dielman. Favorite Chantal Akerman film. I want to tell us what your favorite Akerman is, or like maybe you think we should watch some other Akerman we haven't covered. Let us know. And we talk about movies, TV, music, and also just share what we're up to. We also have Patreon if you want to support us with a monthly subscription. We deeply appreciate it. Click the link in our description or go to deepcutpod.com to find links to everything we've mentioned here. And very special thanks to our Patreon Deep Cut Pick supporter, Leah Lai. Without you, we can't do the show. Deep Cut is hosted and produced by us, Wilson Lai, Benjamin Yap, and Eli Sands. Our cover art is designed by Justina Yam, and our theme song is composed by the one and only Eli Sands.
I'm Wilson.
I'm Ben.
I'm Eli.
Take care, and we're looking forward to talking about more movies with you next time.